Admiral Vincent Powell slammed his scarred fist onto the gilded table, its reverberations silencing the sneering Bolian Emperor Jackson mid-sentence as he mocked humanity's primitive warships. Vincent locked eyes with the stunned Emperor, his gaze simmering with a defiant rage forged through generations of human suffering under the Galactic Empire's iron heel. The grizzled admiral stood alone, a solitary figure facing the assembled might of the Bolian court, in their opulent Grand Council chamber. Sycophantic advisers and preening nobles tittered behind jeweled hands, their mirth barely concealing the disdain they held for the upstart humans and their audacious defiance of imperial rule. Emperor Jackson, his angular features twisted into a contemptuous sneer, leaned forward on his ornate throne. "You dare interrupt me, human? Your species exists only by the grace of the Bolian Empire. Your planets would be lifeless husks if not for our benevolent guidance. And yet you have the gall to stand before me, demanding recognition as equals?" Vincent's voice was low and steady, each word weighted with the gravity of Earth's history. "Your benevolence has been a yoke around humanity's neck for centuries. You subjugated our people, stripped us of our freedom, and tried to erase our very identity. But we never forgot who we are. We never stopped fighting for our right to exist on our own terms." The Emperor scoffed, waving a dismissive hand. "Your recent victories against our forces are mere flukes, human, testament only to your species' barbaric ways and disregard for civilized warfare. They changes nothing. Earth will surrender unconditionally and submit to Bolian rule or face annihilation." Vincent's jaw clenched, a vein pulsing in his temple as he fought to control his rage. "Humanity will never bow to tyranny again, Jackson. We've spent centuries preparing for this moment, hiding our true strength until the time was right. And that time is now." With a curt nod, Vincent signaled to his waiting fleet. The council chamber darkened as a massive holographic display bloomed to life, bathing the room in an eerie glow. Thousands of human warships hung in space, poised to strike at the heart of the Empire. But these were no mere copies of Bolian technology. They were ancient relics from a long-forgotten war, bristling with weapons that predated even the Empire itself. Emperor Jackson blanched, his eyes widening in disbelief as he recognized the distinctive silhouettes of the human vessels. "That's impossible," he whispered, his voice trembling. "Those ships were lost millennia ago. They couldn't have survived." Vincent allowed himself a small, grim smile. "We found them, Jackson, hidden away in the depths of space, waiting for us to reclaim our birthright. And now we offer you a choice. Withdraw from all human systems and agree to a fair peace, or face the full might of Earth's ancient fleet." The council chamber erupted into chaos, panicked shouts and accusations flying as the implications sank in. Humanity had been hiding its true power for generations, biding its time until it could challenge the Empire's hegemony. The stage was set for a brutal war that would reshape the galaxy forever, with Earth poised to reclaim its rightful place among the stars. Vincent stood amidst the turmoil, his resolve unwavering. He knew the risks, knew the sacrifices that lay ahead, but he also knew that humanity would never again submit to the yoke of oppression. They would fight, and they would win, no matter the cost. For in the end it was not just the fate of Earth at stake, but the very soul of humanity itself. As the council erupted into complete chaos, shouts and accusations bouncing off the gilded walls, Vincent Powell and his human entourage made their exit with haste. They slipped out of the chamber, leaving Emperor Jackson to deal with the outraged uproar of his vassals alone. The humans marched through the ornate corridors of the palace, their boots echoing on the polished stone floors. In the midst of the pandemonium, a small group of Bolians emerged from the shadows and fell into step beside Vincent. Their leader, a sharp-eyed strategist named Zahn, leaned in close to the Admiral. "Admiral Powell, we have a proposition for you," he said, his voice low and urgent. Vincent glanced at the Bolian, his brow furrowed. "I'm listening." "We represent a faction within the Empire that has long sought to overthrow Jackson's tyrannical rule. We can provide you with vital intelligence on the Empire's defenses, supply lines, and key weaknesses. In exchange, we ask for amnesty and a seat at the table when it comes time to reshape the Bolian government after the war. Vincent considered the offer, his mind racing. Inside information on the Empire's inner workings could give humanity a crucial edge in the coming conflict. He nodded curtly. "Very well, Zahn, we have a deal. But be warned, if you betray us, there will be consequences." Zahn bowed his head. "Understood, Admiral, we will not let you down." As Vincent and his new allies made their way to the human fleet, word reached them of Emperor Jackson's desperate moves. The Bolian ruler had rallied his forces and sent out a galaxy-wide call to arms, painting the humans as dangerous upstarts who threatened the very fabric of the Empire. He urged all loyal species to join him in crushing the human rebellion. But Jackson's call fell on many deaf ears. Countless client species, long chafing under the yoke of Bolian oppression, saw the human uprising as a chance to break free. In secret, they began to defect to the human cause, pledging their support and resources to Vincent's growing alliance. As both sides geared up for the inevitable clash, a message from Earth reached Vincent's flagship. A second human fleet, even larger and more technologically advanced than the first, was en route to reinforce his position. The Admiral felt a surge of hope, but he knew that victory would require more than just superior firepower. Vincent realized that to truly defeat the Empire, he would need to win the hearts and minds of its subjects. He set in motion a covert campaign to sow the seeds of rebellion on Bolian-occupied worlds, dispatching agents and spreading propaganda to stir up resentment against the Empire's rule. Jackson, growing increasingly desperate to maintain control, resorted to brutal tactics to quell any hint of dissent. His actions only served to further alienate his allies and drive more species into the waiting arms of the human rebellion. The stage was now set for a war unlike any the galaxy had ever seen. Vincent would lead the charge against the Empire's military might, while Zahn and his fellow rebels worked to undermine Jackson's rule from within. The fate of countless worlds hung in the balance as the war between humanity and the Bolian Empire raged across the stars. Vincent Powell received a cryptic message from his newfound ally, the Bolian rebel strategist Zahn. The intel pointed to a heavily guarded research facility hidden in the roiling plasma storms of a dying star. Zahn's sources whispered of a secret weapon being developed there, one that could neutralize the ancient human fleet's technological edge and turn the tide of the war. Without hesitation, Vincent assembled an elite strike team for a daring raid on the facility. He handpicked his most trusted officers, including his right hand, Commander Roth, a grizzled veteran of countless battles, and Dr. Ilara Soren, a brilliant xenobiologist whose expertise would be crucial in understanding any Bolian technology they encountered. As their stealth shuttle approached the dying star, the team had to navigate treacherous solar flares that threatened to incinerate them at every turn. Vincent gripped the armrests of his chair, his knuckles white as the ship bucked and shuddered through the turbulent plasma. Finally, they reached the facility, a foreboding structure that seemed to defy the laws of physics as it hung suspended in the heart of the star. The team quickly infiltrated the base, engaging in fierce firefights with heavily armed Bolian guards as they fought their way deeper into the labyrinthine corridors. At last they reached the central lab, where they discovered the true nature of the Bolian weapon. Not a device, but a living being. Floating in a stasis tank was a genetically engineered super soldier, a perfect hybrid of Bolian and human DNA, designed to possess the strengths of both species while mitigating their weaknesses. It was designated Alpha. As Vincent and his team approached the tank, Alpha's eyes snapped open, glowing with an eerie, predatory intelligence. In a blur of motion, it smashed through the reinforced glass and launched itself at the humans, moving with superhuman speed and agility. The strike team opened fire, but their weapons seemed to have little effect on Alpha's enhanced physiology. The creature shrugged off the hail of plasma bolts and closed in on the team, tossing them aside like rag dolls. Commander Roth charged forward, engaging Alpha in hand-to-hand combat to buy time for his comrades. They traded blows in a brutal dance, Roth's augmented strength barely a match for Alpha's raw power. Meanwhile, Dr. Soren worked frantically to find a vulnerability in the creature's genetic code, searching for a way to neutralize its enhancements. Her fingers flew across her datapad as she analyzed the readouts from her scans. Just as Alpha gained the upper hand, pinning Roth to the ground and preparing to deliver a killing blow, Dr. Soren cried out in triumph. She had found a weakness in the creature's neural implant, a small flaw in its programming that could be exploited. But there was no time to implement her plan remotely. Someone would have to get close enough to Alpha to upload the computer virus directly into its implant. Without hesitation, Roth seized the opportunity. He grabbed the data drive containing the virus from Dr. Soren and, in a final act of sacrifice, tackled Alpha, jamming the drive into the port on the back of its neck. The virus uploaded in an instant, and Alpha convulsed as its implant short-circuited, rendering it unconscious. Vincent rushed to his fallen friend's side, but it was too late. Roth had given his life to save the team and secure their victory. With heavy hearts, Vincent and Dr. Soren gathered up Alpha's prone form and made their escape, fighting their way back to the shuttle. But as they emerged from the facility, they found themselves facing a new threat. Emperor Jackson himself had arrived with a fleet of his most advanced warships, alerted to the raid by the base's distress signal. The Emperor's voice boomed across the comm channels, cold and imperious as he demanded the return of his property. He revealed that Alpha was merely the prototype for an army of super soldiers he intended to create, living weapons that would crush the human rebellion once and for all. Vincent, exhausted and heartsick at the loss of his friend, nevertheless stood firm. He declared that Alpha was not property, but a sentient being with the right to choose its own destiny. In a final gambit, Vincent challenged Jackson to single combat, wagering Alpha's fate and the outcome of the war on the victor. The Emperor, arrogant in his own genetically enhanced abilities, accepted the challenge with a sneer. And so, as the fleets of both sides held their positions in the shadow of the dying star, Vincent and Jackson prepared for a duel that would decide the course of galactic history. The fate of Alpha, and of all the races who looked to humanity as their last hope, rested on Vincent's shoulders as he faced down his most formidable foe yet. The sleek Imperial shuttle sliced through the inky void of space, its powerful engines propelling it towards the looming behemoth of Emperor Jackson's flagship. Inside the cramped cockpit, Vincent Powell sat in tense silence, his powered exoskeleton humming with barely restrained energy. Beside him, Dr. Ilara Soren tapped furiously at her datapad, her brow furrowed in concentration as she worked to unravel the secrets of Alpha's genetic code. As the shuttle docked with the flagship, Vincent and Ilara exchanged a brief, determined glance. They knew the fate of the galaxy hinged on the outcome of the coming battle. With a hiss of hydraulics, the airlock opened, and the two humans stepped onto the polished deck of the Bolian ship. Emperor Jackson stood waiting for them, his own exoskeleton gleaming in the harsh light. His eyes blazed with a fanatic's zeal as he raised his plasma rifle. "You dare to challenge me on my own ship, human?" he sneered. "Your arrogance will be your undoing." Vincent said nothing, his own rifle snapping up to aim at the Emperor's heart. The two leaders charged at each other, their exoskeletons amplifying their speed and strength to superhuman levels. They clashed in a blur of metal and sparks, their weapons forgotten as they grappled in a deadly embrace. As the Titans fought, Ilara raced through the ship's corridors, her heart pounding as she searched for the stasis chamber where Alpha was held. She burst into the lab, her eyes widening at the sight of the unconscious super soldier suspended in a glowing tank. With trembling fingers, Ilara connected her datapad to the tank's control panel. She worked feverishly to revive Alpha, praying that the being would listen to reason and join their cause. The tank hissed open, and Alpha's eyes snapped open, glowing with an eerie intensity. "Alpha, please," Ilara pleaded, her voice trembling. "We need your help. Emperor Jackson is a tyrant and we're fighting to free the galaxy from his oppression. You have a choice, a chance to do what's right." Alpha regarded her coldly, its enhanced mind processing her words with lightning speed. It took a step forward, its muscles rippling beneath its skin. Ilara held her breath, her hand hovering over the plasma pistol at her hip. But then, something flickered in Alpha's eyes, a glimmer of understanding, of empathy. It had seen the bravery and selflessness of Vincent and his team, the way they fought not for power, but for freedom. Slowly, Alpha nodded, its voice a low rumble. "I will fight with you." Relief flooded through Ilara, but there was no time to celebrate. The ship shuddered beneath their feet, the distant sounds of explosions and blaster fire echoing through the halls. Vincent and Jackson were locked in a desperate battle, neither giving quarter. Alpha and Ilara raced towards the sounds of combat, bursting onto the bridge just as Jackson gained the upper hand. The Emperor had Vincent pinned, his exoskeleton's enhanced strength slowly crushing the human's throat. But then Alpha was there, moving with blinding speed to tackle Jackson off of Vincent. The two super soldiers grappled, their strength evenly matched. Vincent staggered to his feet, blood trickling from his split lip. He raised his rifle, waiting for a clear shot. But Jackson was too fast, too cunning. He twisted, using Alpha's own momentum to throw the being into Vincent. The two allies crashed to the deck in a tangle of limbs. Jackson loomed over them, his face twisted in a triumphant sneer. "Pathetic," he spat. "Did you really think you could defeat me? I am the Empire!" But even as he spoke, the ship shuddered again, more violently this time. Ilara's eyes widened in horror as she saw the readouts on a nearby console. "He's activated the self-destruct sequence," she cried. "We have to get out of here." Vincent and Alpha surged to their feet, diving for the escape pods. Jackson let out a howl of rage, his eyes blazing with madness. "If I die, I'm taking you with me," he screamed. They barely made it to the pods in time, sealing the hatches just as the flagship exploded in a blinding flash of light. The pods careened wildly through the debris field, buffeted by the shock waves of the dying ship. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, they emerged into open space. A ragtag fleet of rebel ships surrounded them, patchwork vessels cobbled together from dozens of species. At their center, the human fleet hung in formation, proud and unbowed. Vincent, Ilara, and Alpha staggered from their pods, exhausted but alive. Zahn and the other rebel leaders greeted them, their faces alight with joy and triumph. The tide had turned. The Empire was crumbling. Freedom, at last, was within their grasp. But even as they celebrated, a chill ran down Vincent's spine. He had seen the look in Jackson's eyes in those final moments. The Emperor may be dead, but his legacy of tyranny and oppression would not die so easily. There would be others, warlords and fanatics, who would seek to fill the void left by Jackson's fall. The war was far from over, but for now, in this moment of hard-won victory, Vincent allowed himself a small smile. They had struck a blow for liberty today, and whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together, as one galaxy, united in the cause of freedom. As the newly formed Galactic Alliance celebrated its hard-won victory over the Bolian Empire, a new threat emerged from the shadows. The rogue Bolian warlords, led by a mysterious figure known as Zoran, struck without warning. Their fleet of ancient dreadnoughts, long thought lost to the ages, tore through the Alliance's defenses like a plasma blade through flesh. Supreme Commander Vincent Powell stood on the bridge of his flagship, his face grim as reports of the devastation poured in. The dreadnought's dark energy weapons were unlike anything the Alliance had ever seen, capable of annihilating entire fleets in a single volley. Even the mighty human warships with their ancient technology were outmatched. "We have to find a way to stop them," Vincent growled, his fists clenched at his sides, "or there won't be a galaxy left to save." Dr. Ilara Soren, her eyes hollow from too many sleepless nights, looked up from her console. "I think I might have found a weakness in their weapon systems. The dreadnoughts are all powered by a central dark energy core on Zoran's flagship. If we can get aboard and disable it, we might stand a chance." Vincent nodded, his jaw set. "Then that's what we'll do. Alpha and I will lead a strike team to infiltrate the flagship. You'll be our guide, Doctor." The super soldier Alpha, Its loyalty to the Alliance unwavering, stepped forward. "I'm ready, Commander." The strike team boarded a cloaked shuttle and set out for Zoran's flagship, a monstrous vessel that dwarfed even the largest of the Alliance ships. They managed to slip aboard undetected, but once inside, they were met with fierce resistance from Zoran's fanatical Bolian warriors. Vincent and Alpha fought side by side, their enhanced abilities and weapons cutting a path through the enemy ranks. Dr. Soren followed close behind, her knowledge of the ship's layout guiding them ever closer to their target. At last they reached the core chamber, a vast pulsing room filled with swirling dark energy, and there, standing before them, was Zoran himself. But as the warlord turned to face them, Vincent felt a shock of recognition. Zoran was the spitting image of the late Emperor Jackson, down to the cruel twist of his lip. "Surprised, Commander?" Zoran sneered. "I am not Jackson's half-brother, as the rumors claim. I am his clone, created as a failsafe in case of his demise, and now I will finish what he started." With a manic laugh, Zoran activated the core's self-destruct mechanism, a doomsday device that would unleash a cataclysmic wave of dark energy, wiping out all life in the galaxy. Vincent and Alpha charged forward, desperate to stop the countdown. But Zoran was a formidable opponent, enhanced by the same dark technology that powered his ships. As the seconds ticked away, Alpha made a fateful decision. With a final crushing blow, it tackled Zoran, sending them both hurtling into the core chamber. The force field sealing the chamber snapped shut behind them, trapping the clone and the super soldier inside. "Alpha, no!" Vincent shouted, slamming his fists against the unyielding barrier. But Alpha just looked back at him, a sad smile on its face. "Go, Commander, save the galaxy. This is my purpose." With a heavy heart, Vincent and Dr. Soren fled the flagship, racing against time to escape before the core went critical. They barely made it to the shuttle before the dreadnought exploded in a blinding flash of light, the shockwave obliterating the rest of Zoran's fleet in a cosmic chain reaction. The threat was over. The Bolian warlords were no more, but the cost had been high, too high. You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.